Good evening, everyone. My name is Karina Davis, and I'm an Assistant Director of Admission here at Merrimack College. You're attending the O'Brien Center session today, and so I'll pass it over to McKaylee. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to type them into the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy our presentation with McKaylee.
Thank you so much, Karina. Hi, everyone. My name is McKaylee Morrow. I'm the Associate Vice President of Career Advising and Professional Development. Long title, I run the O'Brien Center. And so today you're here to hear a little bit more about what we're doing in the O'Brien Center. We have some exciting things happening. I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides, but I'm going to be jumping in and out to show you some things that you can explore later on your own on our website. Makes it a little more interactive. So I'm going to pop into that there, and we'll start our presentation. So just a brief introduction of myself, super brief. You'll see some letters behind my name. I am a CPA. My background is in tax and accounting. And then later on, after spending some time in the public accounting world, I went back and did a PhD. And I was actually a full-time faculty member at a few other institutions before I landed at Merrimack. And I'll tell you why I was so excited to come to Merrimack and to take this position, and it has everything to do with what we're going to be talking about tonight. Number one, there's a lot of really cool things going on at Merrimack in general, and I started, after being a faculty member for quite a while, I started thinking about what are some other things that I'd like to do, and one of those things was thinking about how are we really preparing students for the jobs that are out there in the future, not just maybe their first job, and how are we connecting that to curriculum? You know, as a tax professor, that was really important because tax is always changing. And it just so happened around that time, Merrimack had a position open that was going to be focused on doing just that. Now, the position kind of morphed, and now I'm running the whole Career Center. And so we'll talk about how we've changed our career advising strategy and shifted to really focus on thinking about using technology to help students think about their future careers, so the whole career exploration and development journey, and how that's going to help them be better prepared for what's to come in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. For me, though, this is a really personal thing because whenever I went to college, so you'll hear a little twang in my voice, I was born and raised in the Texas Panhandle, and you know, my parents had both been to college, but they didn't work in the business world, and they weren't really kind of equipped to help me when I went to college, to help me think about what I wanted to do with my life. And that's okay. I think, you know, what I thought was there were a few options for my profession. And one of the ones I landed on was that I wanted to be a lawyer. I joke with students, I tell them, this is actually true, though it's not a joke. I watched the movie A Few Good Men, and I saw Demi Moore, and she was a really amazing lawyer and super impressive. And I said, I want to be her. Not really knowing anything about the job market for lawyers or what that might entail. I went to college at a small regional school, similar to Merrimack in some ways. It was a public school called West Texas A&M University. And I just kind of lucked into my career path, right? You're like, law, tax accountant, okay, kind of close together, but not really. I, wanted to be like a trial lawyer. When a family friend asked me after my freshman year how it was going, and I said, oh, it's great, I'm majoring in pre-law, and he said, well, what kind of lawyer are you going to be? And I said, you know, that really cool one on TV that's like yelling at judges and making her case. And he's like, no, what kind of law? And I realized that you needed to specialize, and this family friend really kind of predicted what was going to happen in the legal field, that there were too many lawyers and that specialization would be important. And he pushed me toward business, and he happened to be an accountant, and he pushed me towards accounting. Just really luck, right? It had nothing to do with me exploring that career path or thinking about what that might mean for me or whether it would work for me or not. And I happened to really enjoy it because I ended up in tax, which is really law. And so it was totally accidental. So for me, when I think about what we're doing for students, it's really important because I want them to have the chance to go on this exploration. That's what college is all about. And to think about finding work that's meaningful for them, that's fulfilling for them, but also that'll pay the rent, right? Because that's important too. And so that's really the journey that we think about and that we try to lead students on. So if you see me getting a little excited, it's because I do get a little bit excited. So tonight it's just me, but I have an amazing career advising team. In fact, half the team was just sitting in on a panel for human development and human services where they had some employers come in that area. And we have a lot of events like that. So I said, I'll take this nighttime event. But if you happen to come to Merrimack or your student happens to come to Merrimack, this is our career advising team. And the way our model works is each of these career advisors is responsible for one of the schools. And they have really, subject matter expertise as far as career paths go. They also have relationships with the faculty. They understand the curriculum. And so they're uniquely set up to help advise your students. We have some other tools that help them keep up with trends, and we're going to see those in a few minutes. But this is really, and all of these folks also serve as success coaches. So you probably heard about success coaching if you went to the session with the ASC. And so they're dealing with students freshman year all the way through senior year, and then graduate students as well. Awesome group of people, and when your student comes to campus as a freshman, they get connected with their success coach right away, and then are connected with the O'Brien Career Advising team right away as well. So it's my team. Let me tell you a little bit about what our model is. And it starts with, what do you mean by a career? So I'm going to have to pull up a little graphic here. And this is the discussion that we have with students. We talk about the idea of the changing nature of a career. I can't take credit for any of this. There's a wonderful book by Linda Gratton and Andrew Scott. It's called The 100-Year Life, and it talks about the idea that people are living longer. And it also talks about the idea that the way we live life is changing. I know for myself and definitely for my parents and grandparents, there's this idea of you get an education, you get a job, and then you retire. And the retirement happens around the age of 65 or 67 or something like that, and then you're good to go. Except now, if you live to be, 90, 95, 100 years old, that's a really huge gap. Maybe being bored, but also not having the resources to survive that time. And so what does that mean for a career? Well, it means you're actually working longer, 60 to 70 years. And at the same time, we've seen a shift in how the employer-employee relationship works. And so the average tenure in a job for most folks now is about 4.5 years. No longer are you going to really work for one employer for your entire career. There are some exceptions in some fields, but for the most part, you're going into different fields over the course of your career. And then combine that with the idea of skills. You're going to hear me talk a lot about skills in this session. And the half-life of a learned skill is only about 5 years. So if I learn a piece of technology, there's a good chance that, in the next 3 to 4 years, it's going to be updated significantly enough that I need to go back and re-educate myself. That's okay. This is just a shift. It doesn't mean it's unmanageable. It also means that, if you're working for 60 to 70 years, you're probably not just working. There's other things that are happening. You're going back to school. You're maybe starting on a totally different career path, right? You're shifting. I said earlier, I was a full-time faculty member. I was a tenured professor. That's what I did. I was a professor. And then I said, I want to do something more. I didn't shift completely out of my field, but I did change what my day-to-day job looked like. I had to go back and think about my skills. Managing a team of 20 versus kind of managing myself and my students. It's different skills in use there. So these shifts are going to happen. Some people might decide to start their own business. They might decide that they're going to take a break from the labor force for whatever reason, whether it's a family reason or maybe something else. And so all of this requires a little bit of planning. but it also requires a mindset of lifelong learning and figuring out, how do I develop these skills? So you're telling me that my skills are going to become extinct or need to be resharpened or relearned. So how do I do that? And so you'll hear the terminology, the idea of reskilling or upskilling. And so reskilling would be, learning skills for a job that you're already in, that maybe the technology is changing or the job description is changing, the job duties are changing. Upskilling would be thinking about, what are the skills I need to learn in addition to what I already know to shift in a career path or to move up in my job. And so what we want to do is to give students the tools to be able to think about this as a long-term prospect. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So the 4 years that they're here, we're teaching them to develop these good habits of learning, of thinking about this career journey in a holistic way, that it's not just I get my degree and I'm done. Really, the career development is a part of everything that they do. So we'll move on from this graphic because 60 to 70 years of working is making us all tired, especially if it's going to be on Zoom for any extended period of time. So what do we do? How do we go on this journey, right? So I like to think of it as this career exploration and development journey. It sounds fun. It's actually kind of difficult because we ask some difficult questions, but we can focus it on this idea of, who are you, what do you want to be, and how do you get there? And so many students really focus on question 2, what do I want to be? And they don't really think back about question 1 very much, and aren't really thinking about question 3 beyond, I just have to get this degree, and then maybe I'll do an internship when I'm a junior or a senior. I don't know, who knows, we'll see, and then I'm going to get a job. So that works sometimes, most of the time, but not all the time. And so what we want to do is really, step back, start at the beginning here, because exploring who are you actually gives several options for question 2, for the what do you want to be question. And then if your first, what do you want to be doesn't work out, maybe because there's a pandemic and your industry doesn't exist anymore, or your job doesn't exist anymore, that's cool. We have some other options. There's other places for you to go. And so the whole idea is, we're going to create these options, and then we're going to create a strategy to pursue these options. So, that way you don't feel lost, all right? It's a little scary for all of us. How do we do this? Well, we need data. We need technology tools because data and technology tools, data is going to help us make decisions. Technology tools are going to help us scale out this data and this information so all students can have access to it. So I have a fun little graphic here. Really what we've done over the past year and a half or so is build out tools to take students through this journey. So you'll hear me talk about a couple of different ones tonight. We're going to talk about a tool to explore the who are you. We're going to talk about some tools to explore what do you want to be, and then some tools to explore how do you get there. So we'll start with the who are you. And I'll show you where these are on our website in just a few minutes. But the first is this instrument called a way to. That's how you pronounce that, the funny little icon here in the corner. And so I think of this as the career interest exploration tool. Now, a way to, we've been using this for, 2 or 3 years now. And students take this career assessment in FYE, their first year experience course. So every freshman that comes in, and it was actually just last week, it was week 9, believe it or not, of the semester, they have a module for O'Brien. And what happens is they take the OA2 instrument, they have some reflection that they do, and then they leads them to some other things, which I'll show you in a few minutes. But they're all exposed to this. And so what is this? It's, if you've ever taken a Myers-Briggs, or I don't know, there's a ton of those personality tests that you can take. And what they've done is combined all of that together, but then included within it career recommendations. So what happens is there's a section about interest, and students can think about what they like to do just on a daily basis. Inclinations, so thinking about what are some broad areas where you could work that might help you pursue your interest, and then values. So what are things that really, really matter to you? So the one I like to use, because it's an easy one, is if you really care about the environment, all right? And so, that's something that's a value, and it might also be an interest and an inclination. Well, what does that mean? Do you have to go work for, a nonprofit somewhere? Not necessarily. You might find a fit at a company that really cares about corporate social responsibility, and part of that is maintaining the environment. You might want to be an architect who works in and designs green buildings and is really into LEED certified or something like that. And so there's a whole host of ways that someone could find very fulfilling and meaningful work that fits with their values and their interests and their inclinations, and that's a good job. And so a way to is the start of that. So it doesn't just say, okay, what fits with your personality? It really digs into some of those other questions. And the cool thing about this is we have students actually go back and take this in their junior and their senior year, just to think about, okay, did I miss something? Maybe the job market has changed and I don't really see my career path as one that's fruitful. All right, we can go back and we can revisit this. We can think about it again. And so that's the first piece. And then we go into what do you want to be? And I'll show you where this is on our website. If I jump into it, I'll end up taking too long. But the tool is called What Can I Do with This Major? And it's pretty self-explanatory. It is a database that is very well maintained that all students have access to. And basically they go in, they click through their major, and what they can see is the different areas in that major. So I was talking about architecture. So as an example, in the architecture section, they might be able to see the different types of architects, right? So a landscape architect, I know nothing about architecture, so I'm really going to stretch this analogy, but they would see the different areas of architecture, and then they could see, okay, what are some strategies for pursuing architecture? What are some skills that I need to develop? What are some associations that I might want to be a part of? And so what we do is we have students create a checklist based on that. And who do I need to network with? What associations do I need to join as a student member? And what strategies do I need to think about pursuing? It might say something like, hey, you need to get a master's degree for this field, or you need to get a doctorate for this field. And so students can know right away, this is what my journey is going to be. You need to get a certification for this field. So really what that does is let students think about the whole universe of options that are out there. I like to use accounting as an example too, because most people don't necessarily know all the areas you can work in accounting. Often students don't realize that you can work in governmental accounting, that you can work for a nonprofit in the accounting department. It's not just kind of, I'm going to go work for a corporation, or I'm going to go work in a public accounting function. So it really opens up the world of options for them. So that's the what do you want to be. The next tool is Burning Glass, and I think you've had an opportunity to see a demo of Burning Glass, and I'm going to just hop out for a second to our Merrimack website. So I'll ask Karina if she can type this in the chat for you. It's career.merrimack.edu. And underneath career resources, we have a section called technology resources. This is where most of the links to the technology tools can be found, and you can go and kind of poke around in here if you're interested. You could go into the what can I do with this major tool if you're interested, and poke around in there as well. You just have to click through there. If you want to access the Burning Glass data, so Burning Glass Technologies is a real-time labor market database of job descriptions, and it creates this set of beautiful dashboards where you can look at what employers are hiring for what jobs now and what skills they require of potential employees. You can go and do this now. You don't have to have a login for it. You go to career clusters on our site. Let's go into engineering. I was talking about something engineering relating, architecture. I don't know if that's engineering. It's probably not. So this is populated, maybe civil kind of, populated with our majors that we have at Merrimack. So your student can go in and explore the major they're interested in. Let's click into civil engineering. And what you'll see here is a little bit of information at the top about the major. You'll see a link to the what can I do with this major for civil engineering. But then this is really the good stuff here, all right? So what this is that real-time labor market data. So this is going to update about every 2 days. So you could go in there at different times and test it if you don't believe that's true. I have been known to do that. So you can jump in and say, let's say civil and safety engineering. 4 career options here. Again, I know nothing about this field. I don't have to know anything about this field. I'm doing this exploration with a student. It'll allow us to kind of see what's out there now. We can ask questions. We can do some Googling. So let's go to environmental engineer. All right, pretty great. Pretty nice looking salary. This is set to nationwide. We could set it to Massachusetts if we wanted. I can click through to learn more, and it's going to work a little bit behind the scenes. It gives us this really cool information here about what an environmental engineer actually is, which is important. And then we can, kind of scroll down and see the growth in this career. We can look at top employers and top industries. The employer relations team on my team actually uses this to look at employers that we want to establish relationships with, because if they're hiring, we want them to be on campus to hire our students. And so then we can look at skills. So this is really what we have students focus on, is what are the skills that they're developing while they are on campus. And they could develop skills in numerous places. They could develop them in the classroom, of course. They could develop them if we're talking about soft skills, which we like to call transferable skills. That can happen in clubs. That can happen through other things that they're doing. Maybe they're playing sports. Maybe they're volunteering. Then they can also develop skills through internships. They can develop skills through anything that they're doing. Maybe they're doing student employment on campus. We have a huge skills focus, and we're asking them to think about what are the skills you're developing, and then how are you representing that to employers. Because we have this data, we can tie those things closely together. And I'm going to show you the next 2 tools and how we do that. So all those places to develop skills. So we'll hold that in the queue for a second. The next tool that we have, I'm going to jump back into this, is a tool called Quincia. And Quincia is a resume evaluation tool and a mock interviewing tool. So you might be sitting out there, you may have applied for a job, you may be someone that works in an HR function. What Quincia does is helps students get past the machine. And so it evaluates the resume to make sure it's appropriate for what the employer is asking for, how they're screening through their resume. And so that's one piece of it. It also gives an option of letting students see what are the skills you're showing on your resume, and they can match that up to their job descriptions for the jobs they're applying for. And then beyond that, there's a mock interviewing tool. So this is all based on AI, and she has a name. Her name is Quinn. And so Quinn will actually interview your students and ask questions like, tell me about yourself. And then there's this little boopy beepy thing that happens on the screen, and you awkwardly have to talk to Quinn for 2 minutes. But it really helps prepare for speaking to a computer if your interview is AI-based, or even situations like this, presenting on Zoom or interviewing via Zoom. So interview prep from that perspective. So Quincia it's really cool, and we are actually going to be filming advisors doing this, and we may have a blooper reel, so that could be to come. So really kind of closing the loop here then on developing skills. LinkedIn is where we're going to be really focused on having students display their skills. LinkedIn Learning is the place where we can help students close the gap in any skills that maybe it's a course that we don't offer, or if it's a new technology that, it's just not possible to keep up with that, or to, you have 15 weeks in a classroom. And so we have faculty that are using LinkedIn Learning as a supplemental part of their course. And this is a partnership with, LinkedIn Learning is owned by Microsoft, and there's about 16,500 courses that are in LinkedIn Learning. And what we've done is created custom learning paths for students. So I'm gonna jump out of here one more time, and I know we're getting to the end of our time here. And if you pop into our career.merrimack.edu under technology resources, what we did is we went through all of our majors that we have on campus, and this is visible to you as well if you go to the website. We created, based on Burning Glass data, so using that other tool and picking out the skills that students would need to develop, we created spreadsheets of those skills. So accounting's at the top, we'll click into that. And what this does is allow students to continue to develop their skills beyond what they get in the classroom. So if I'm an accounting major and I want to work on my data analysis skills, I come to the spreadsheet, I click through to LinkedIn Learning. All students have an account with their merrimack.edu address. This is completely free. They can do as many courses as they want. So that resource is there for them from the minute that they step on campus. And so, Karina, you're probably about to give me the 1-minute warning here. The last resource that we have is Handshake, and this is our platform that connects students to employers, also connects them to our career advisors. But since we're running out of time, I'm going to go to what we have students do in their first year. They're creating a LinkedIn profile with a professional headshot. They're working on populating that profile. They're creating their resume. They're running it through Quincia. They are getting their LinkedIn Learning account. They're creating their Handshake account. They're using that module in FYE to really jumpstart their activities. And then we're encouraging them to sign up for a 1-credit career course, Foundations of Career Exploration and Development, where we lead them through this journey. And we're encouraging students to take that the second semester of their freshman year, and encouraging them also to engage with us. So my events and operations coordinator, Ashley Arcangelo, she's amazing, and she connects with students. Instagram is our main way of connecting with students, and she gives away stuff all the time, and it entices them to do things career related. And so we encourage students to follow us on social media, because you never know when you might get a Merrimack mug or something like that. Karina, I think I left 2 minutes for questions.
That's perfect, because we have 2 questions.
Oh, good. Okay.
Question is, for our psychology program, what's the job placement rate out of Merrimack? And maybe you could just talk a little bit in general about job placement rate as well.
Yeah, so I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry. That actually is probably a better question for the academics session. They might know that. I'm happy to answer that via email when I can access the data. Our job placement rate, I believe, is 98%. Again, it depends on the major, but we really look at, when we do our first destination survey, we look at, did you go to graduate school, or did you get a job, full-time employment?
Awesome. And then the second question is, for students that come in as an undeclared or undecided major, can you talk a little bit about how you engage with them starting in their freshman year?
Oh, fabulous, and great question, because I forgot to tell you about Gail Pasillo, who is an amazing human being, and she takes care of the undeclared majors, and she leads them through this career exploration and development process in a more personalized way. So I cannot recommend her highly enough. And we have now given her these tools to back up the already wonderful work that she does with students. And so she engages with them. They have regular meeting times. They work through all of this, what do you want to be? How do you get there? Who are you? All of that. And they also have access to our career advisors as well. Usually they work primarily with Gail, and then as they decide to start thinking about what they want to do. So what she might do is say, oh, you're interested in this job. Here's a skill you might need to develop. Let's watch a LinkedIn Learning video to see if you're interested in that before you actually take a class, right? Or let's think about what those skills are and whether that's something that appeals to you. Then she'll send them on to their specific career advisor once they've chosen a school. But usually they work primarily with Gail, and they see us in other places at other events and things like that, but she shepherds them. Great question. She's so awesome.
She really is. And
Yeah.
you can hear more about our Discover program in the next academic session if you're interested. So highly encourage you to attend one of the academic sessions that you're interested. Thank you for joining us for the O'Brien Center session. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to McKaylee by sending an email to o'briencenter@merrimack.edu. I did throw it in the chat function there. And enjoy your night. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, everyone.